know, AI is fascinating, but it's also daunting, particularly for those of us who don't consider ourselves experts in this area. But just about every profession, I'm a pharmacist, and it's going to impact my profession. It's going to impact almost everything that we can think of. But it is daunting, and it's we know that the advantages are immeasurable. But then again, we got to be careful. We know that it's going to help us in detecting cyber threats, increasing network reliability and spectrum efficiency, or combating robocalls. We all want that. But so the benefits speak for themselves, but the innovation has got to be balanced. It's got to be balanced with responsibility, and I'm very, very concerned. I think we all are about that. I'm particularly curious about how AI can help us modify and improve and deploy broadband, especially in rural areas. I have the honor and privilege of representing the entire coast of Georgia, but I have a lot of rural South Georgia as well. In Georgia, we say there's two Georgias. There's Atlanta and everywhere else. Well, I represent everywhere else, and there's a lot of rural area in South Georgia. Mr. Pickering, how can federal policy promote equitable access to AI-powered tools and services, particularly in rural and underserved areas?
Well, one thing that this committee has spoken earlier this year to address is how the BEAD funds need to go out as quickly as possible, the speed to BEAD, and to be able to cut the red tape so that the deployment of broadband networks to rural parts of the country, like your district, can proceed as quickly as possible with as little regulatory red tape as possible. AI can help us on the permitting side, both for the local mayor, city council, to be able to have the resources through AI to solve permitting issues to make it faster so that you can build faster. As many of the panelists have talked about, wireless coverage in rural areas can be improved by AI and the spectrum management and how our networks operate and interoperate. So for rural America, AI on our networks, on our broadband deployments. I'll give you one last example. We have a company that is building in the Midwest, and they're able, through an AI software application, to know when a contractor is completing a fiber deployment by the square foot, and they can pay them in real time. And so the incentive is to build faster, because as soon as they build, they can get paid. And so that's just one example.
That's a nice incentive. And for someone who was in business for 32 years, I can assure you that's a nice incentive. Another component of AI that I think is critical for our race is from 5G to 6G and the technology there. I believe that we're in another arms race with our adversaries such as China, and we need to be first in the world to reach 6G. The Salt Typhoon, all of you remember that. Last year was a Chinese-sponsored infiltration of 9 major American telecommunications companies' networks and systems. Mr. Shea, what lessons did the industry learn from the Salt Typhoon cyber attack? Did we learn anything? I mean,
I'm not really qualified on cybersecurity to comment. I just know that it was a substantial penetration, and there certainly is a lot of concern in the industry.
Anyone on the panel want to take a stab at that? Good. I win. I baffled the count. I did it. I've been wanting to do that for 11 years. So thank y'all. What do you think is the role, Mr. Shea, of AI in improving spectral efficiency and resilience in national critical infrastructure?
Well, we think, as I mentioned in my testimony, we're trying to share bands with incumbent users that are very mobile. And prior attempts were very slow. They took maybe minutes to make a spectrum change. I think with AI, you can, in a matter of milliseconds, understand what's happening in the spectrum and have the people that are using the band that are not the incumbent user make an accommodation for the user. So I think it's opening a whole new world for spectrum sharing.
Great. Again, I want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to remind you, for many of us, for most of us, I would go as far as to say, this is fascinating, but it's also daunting, and it's also, quite honestly, scary. So bear with us. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair recognizes Mr. Menendez for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'm deeply concerned that we're sitting here while our colleagues across the aisle push for deregulation of AI at the same time that the Trump administration is weaponizing